So, number 52, the Darkness to Light Godcast. Thank you again for joining me. I just took cramp in my foot there for about a minute before I come on. It's still kind of tickling me a wee bit. So we go again. Thank you again for coming in and joining me, those who are coming back as the journey continues, the mission continues. And this one, quite interesting last week. It's not that I'm trying to build any... when I come on and I start talking about it, I'm not trying to build it up or create some sort of... Because obviously with the title, I realised last week with the title, you'll know what the title is. Now, I found myself the last few weeks talking about it and try to build up, not intentionally try to build up, but realised I'm not actually speaking what the title is. So this one, number 52, is called Army of God, which you've already know when you open it up, because you've seen the title. That gave me a wee bit of a chuckle. And... I'm very wary of the ones that I've done in the past, and there will be evolutions, and I will speak about the same subjects, and I need a list basically. That's the thing I need to do. I'm going to do that today, put a list together of the ones that I've done, 52 now, and I had a wee look back on the recordings, but I need an actual physical, a bit of paper just with the ones that I've done and when I did them. Probably the dates be a good thing as well. Interesting to see the times of year that I was talking about different things, depending on obviously the seasons. And although up in Scotland today it's absolutely pissing done, I just get absolutely soaked with the dug in July, and it's very interesting, this climate that we live in. But the topic and the subject of this one really came through off the back of last night. I have started the reconnection meditation, started them last night, thanks to those who contributed, thanks to those who took part, who came to play. It was a really interesting night. The intention with it, anybody that doesn't know, is to basically offer a live meditation online every night, 9 o'clock for the month of July, to spread the awareness as to what this practice is. Because that's the thing that I see so often, the amount of people, even those who think they know what meditation is, they really don't, most of them, no offence, but people think it's to just sit and zen with your incense candles on and quiet the mind and escape for whatever it is, whether it's 5 minutes or, whatever length of time. And as I've said on here before, that's relaxation, and it is a bit about being mindfulness, I suppose. But meditation, what it actually is to reconnect back to source, back to God, back to the divine, and reconnect that bridge between us and it, which is what I've been doing for the last 20 years with this work. It started off in personal development, but very quickly it was spiritual development. For whatever reason, Dr. Wayne Dyer, many books there. I've actually got a couple of signed, copied books for Dr. Dyer from way back. And it's just interesting how my journey went into the spiritual path very quickly. And I think because I realised that the answers weren't in the 3D, the physical, the ego level of getting stuff and motivation and personal development, which is where I started. That's where this journey started for me. It literally saved my life, personal development. The man that was into personal development gave me an olive branch that pulled me out of the hole that I was in at the time, and it saved my life. But very quickly I realised after the first couple of courses that I did, probably the second one was Anthony Robbins. First one was Richard Bandler, 1987. Second one was Anthony Robbins, Unleash Your Power Within weekend. That was 1998 down in London. And I realised during that weekend, although it was great and I felt incredible and it really gave me so many different tools and techniques and I suppose awarenesses to different things, that again, there's never anything in vain. The bridge and the breadcrumbs that you pick up, the bridges you go across on your journey, and the teachers you come across. Fascinating to look back now after all these years and think how it all went together. It's an amazing journey. The intentional life and the intentional journey is incredible. But I knew from probably 1998, I would say, when I started to realise that I was listening to a lot of business gurus at the time, people like Jim Rohn, Zig Ziglar, Brian Tracy, and it was very much about philosophy and how to sell stuff and how to obviously serve your customer and how to do the right thing and how building your reputation and your business and your who you were on obviously strong, a good moral compass and doing the right thing by people and everybody wins. All that, it was all good stuff. It was all really relevant and good stuff. But I always knew there was something more than that. I always felt that there was something missing. And when Wayne Dyer came on the scene, I'm guessing 1998, felt like can't remember how he came about. Probably the tape cassettes we were buying at the time through Nightingale Conant. There was no internet, so the information and the inspiration through the books and the lessons and the teachers, it all came through, the man that I was doing this with. We were buying tape cassettes for America once a month, a company called Nightingale Conant. And you would get the tape recordings, or maybe it wasn't once a month, it was certainly whenever something new came about. You had all these maybe 10, 15 teachers in the field of personal development that were basically releasing new courses and programs, which would normally be between 6 and 12 cassettes. And he would get them and record them for me, and I would get a tape recording, and I would put it in my van or in my wee tape player at home. I'd listen to it. Just brilliant, when you think about it. And actually having the physical thing, that's one of the challenges with the whole digital age now. You don't actually get something physical. It's like buying records back in the day. You actually used to go to the record shop, you would get the record and you'd come back, it was like a prize, and then opening it up and taking the cellophane off it and just, the lyrics would be on it in some of them and seeing the artwork. It was an experience. It was a tangible thing, and the tape cassettes we were buying at the time were the exact same. He would get the tape cassettes and we would open them up and I'd get a look at them and you would see the inner wee booklet that went with it. So Wayne Dyer came through round about that probably. I don't think he was with Nightingale Conant. I don't know whether he was with Hay House at the time or not, but he started coming into my life and came into my life at a time when I was absolutely looking for something more, and from personal development into spiritual development happened very quickly for me. And so that's been the journey for the last probably 26, 27 years. It's been all about the realisation and the direct experience of the divinity that was inside me that I knew about because he was talking about it, and he was giving reference to his teachers, and he was talking about God and what God was, and talking about the path, the spiritual path. He used to reference himself as the kind of godfather of the spiritual revolution. And fast forward now, 30 years, he was probably doing that, maybe 10 years before that, probably maybe even longer. His first book, The Erroneous Zones, and one of the tape cassettes I've got is called How to Be a Better Parent, or a No Limits Parent, or something along that. I've got it in the room next door, and he's there with a big woolly jumper and the big moustache and all that. It's fascinating, and I was listening to that stuff before I was even a parent, like spiritual practices and a spiritual way of living, I suppose, with all areas of life, and really him just documenting his journey and talking about where he was at, and the lessons he was learning and sharing at the time, which was just life changing for me. The realisation of what God was and his ideas, and then listening to his teachers and the references he was given was some of the greats. Just talking about Patanjali and Rumi, and just great literature to pick up and devour, and especially at that stage of the journey when I was coming back on the bounce, from being in hell and being in the dark, and then finding all this light very, very quickly, and that's why I get so much out of it. It was so refreshing and just inspiring, being in spirit and getting really tuned into it, and I never had to really force myself to do the work. It was always easy for me, and it was never ending, and it's been never ending to this day. The devotional journey, and eventually, 18 years it took me every single day, give or take. I don't know the exact date, but that's when I experienced what I've been chasing for all those years. My number one question was who am I? More specifically, who the fuck am I? That was my question at the beginning. And then number two was, what the fuck is this world all about? So who am I and what's it all about? That was my two questions. And it took me probably 18 years, of really going on an internal journey of self-discovery. I changed my diet, took away all the stresses, the strains, the people, the noise, the distractions, and became devotional to that journey, and to eventually get there and to eventually have the direct experience, which is really difficult to put in words. Anybody that watches this knows that. It's very challenging to put it in words, but actually what happened. And it's interesting looking back when you read all the different texts and you read, Wayne Dyer's account of different things and different, saints and evolved beings from the past, going all the way back. When the way they talk about it, what God is and what enlightenment is and the power that's inside of us and, living from source. I remember he spoke about Carlos Castaneda, like talking about being a sorcerer, someone who lives from a source. Who's connected to the divine at all times, and that was fascinating. That was my goal, that was my mission, that was my intention, and I got there. I did. I never missed a day, every single day, twice a day most days, first thing in the morning, 3-4 o'clock in the morning, getting up out my bed, sitting in silence, sitting in meditation, and going on a journey, going on an internal journey that nobody knew about. My wife knew about it, but nobody really knew about it, outside, me and her. It was the kind of thing you probably didn't share at the time. I probably wasn't comfortable sharing what I was doing. And again, the transition from where I was, I was probably going back to mass at that time, maybe just before the kids were born, or when the kids were even born. I was probably 30. I was well into it, but then, I remember my son was born, and I think round about then I saw Wayne Dyer, which is going back like 20 years probably. And I remember church and going to chapel as a good Catholic, which I was away for a long time, but I found it a wee bit again. Found some sort of peace in it and some sort of answers before Wayne Dyer started talking about the problems with religion, and how spirituality was very different, and explaining what that was, those differences were. That's when I really kind of stepped away from the religious side of things and really get into the spirituality side of things. And it was through Dr. Dyer, and eventually, after all the years of sitting in silence and sitting with intention and different realizations and some really quantum shifts and expansion along the way, and much healing, the amount of healing that I found in meditation, the amount of peace that I found, forgiveness for others, forgiveness for myself, which was really important, and not really just what I was picking up off the books of the teachers, but really by that point I was really starting to learn my own way of doing it, navigate my own way. I've not had many teachers, since really the early days. I've had a handful of them. Many of their books are behind me now at different stages of my journey, but all the while it was very much based on my own experience of what was coming through for me. It was what was coming in through in meditation specifically. Being in spirit, being inspired, and making sense of stuff, and making, transcending and getting beyond things, and finding ways to heal, all the stuff that I've spoken about on here many times. That all happened, almost all of it in meditation, happened in silence, happened in the middle of the night. There was many tears over many years, let me tell you. It was heavy going in parts, and some of the times I never thought I was going to get there. But that kind of faith in the process, and faith in the truth of what I was learning and what I was reading, and the experiences I was getting was the important part. It was, if I'd have been sitting there just in silence, the way that a lot of people perceive meditation to be, just quiet in the mind and not really thinking about anything, that was never what it was like for me. Maybe in the very beginning, maybe the very start, like early on, and not even for a short period of time, because very quickly I started to go inside and experience stuff. I was getting realizations, I was getting stuff that was coming through in meditation, and because it was every single day, and I've never missed a single day, and once I started I just didn't stop. It was like I dug with a bone, as I still am to this day. And I think because of, I really felt that this way of doing things and being and living was the way that I was going to find, the answers I was looking for, and I got them all, or certainly everything that I've been wanting to find, and the answers I've been looking for up to this point, I've certainly got most of them. And I really, when the first time I experienced the bit that I was chasing, that what I would call enlightenment, which is really the direct experience of the divinity that's inside you, is inside me, it's inside all of us. That's what they say, that's what they taught me, and that became a truth for me when I sat in a meditation, one night, middle of the night, and that presence came in and literally blew my lights out. It really did. It became me and I became it. I became everything, universal consciousness. One of my students was talking about Sadhguru, talking about becoming the mountain. And I get that. That's what it felt like for me. I became the tree and the blade of grass and the pigeon and, universal consciousness. So very difficult to explain in words or do it justice, but it felt like very much part of the unified cosmos or consciousness, or the field of, whatever you want to call it, the field of, divine light, or the way, or the Tao. It doesn't matter what you call it. And you can't really do justice with words. The Tao Te Ching says that how can you name that which cannot be named? So even from this level of mind, the human mind, which is so limited, it's very difficult to do it justice, and very difficult to explain what it is that actually what you go through when you experience it. And that's why to experience it is to understand it. That's so important. But when I got it, when I really got it, that first time when it happened, and I didn't want to come back for it ever. And if I could get there every day, you would never see me. I'd be sitting deep in meditation, in that field, which, again, when I came back trying to explain it, it felt like love. I couldn't do it justice in words. So what did it feel like? Straight into my feelings and my emotions, how best to express it. And it felt like love. And I saw through the veil. I saw through so many things in this world. In that instance, the healing that took place was complete for that time. There's been a new wave of healing since, in terms of different levels and different stuff that needs to come up from. It might be past lives, it might wherever that is, whatever that is, and wherever it's coming from. That journey has continued. But certainly for that time, the connection with that, the reconnection back to that, and the direct experience of it, then everything was done, everything was fixed, there was nothing left undone. It was perfection in every way. I experienced, this field of consciousness that the best way to describe it would probably be like heaven, what you perceive heaven to be. I'm not just feeling it. When I say I became, that field, and it felt like love, and that's why they say that God is love. Understood that straight away. It's not just a case of like you're being in the presence of it or you're feeling it. I literally became it, or it became me. So it's like, could you become? What would it take to not just feel the love or feel the divine, but to literally become it? That's what it felt like. Where Jim disappears, and you take on the consciousness of the whole thing. It only lasted a couple of hours, but a couple of hours that literally changed my life. And when I came back, very much, okay, right, what's next? How do where do I go for here? It's like you've achieved the goal. And for many years after that, it became boring. I knew that I had to pass it on. I knew that my intention was then to give it to people, to help others experience what I'd experienced because of everything that it had done for me. And how incredible it felt. And the question often is like, why does everybody not want this? And then you realise that not many people even know about it. And it's hidden a lot, that whole experience behind like God and religion and all that kind of stuff, which is very much a distraction in most cases, almost all cases. But what I got from it, what I experienced from it, and what I took from it, and the inspiration that came off the back of that was that right now you need to kind of take this to the world and pay it forward and help other people experience this. That became my life's work, in an instant. I knew that straight away as soon as I came back. The whole game changed because something like real and something profound had happened to me. And a massive shift, quantum shift in my consciousness and my level of awareness in terms of what I perceived reality to be, which is a huge challenge, for most people. That's why faith is so important. But faith, faith can become tiring. Excuse me, I spoke for nearly 8 hours yesterday and my voice is on the ropes a wee bit. Faith can become a wee bit of a challenge. We're on the honey as well. Here we go, Manuka honey. 2 seconds. Faith without experience or expansion or evidence, I suppose, as to even that you're moving in the right direction can be really challenging. And I was blessed along the way where every single part, I never ever gave up because I was really steadfast. When Dad taught me that word, steadfast, so you never slip. I got to a point I didn't slip, so every single day was the decision I made. Changed everything with this, real strong desire to experience what he was talking about. Whether he ever got that, I don't know. I need to look into that again. I stopped watching him not long after that, and stopped reading all the books not long after that, and stopped really getting in about anybody else, and just went straight to the source. That's why everything that I do. When somebody asks me again, have you seen somebody? And I don't watch anybody online really. Not really anybody. It comes through me. All the stuff I'm doing, all the work that's coming through me, is coming from inspiration through meditation and coming from the field. That's what it comes from. That's where I like to keep it original and to me, so that I'm not copying anybody, and I'm able to go on this journey of just speaking my truth from where I'm at and letting that be enough. But when I got that experience, when I came back from it, then the intention really was to how do we take this to the world, and that can be tricky. That can be, the realization of the mission, and what my intentions were with it. Straight away, again, I grew up in building sites. I'm the most cynical human being God put on this earth. Let me see it. I need to see it first before I believe it. I'm not interested in anything other than the direct experience of show me it, and then I can make my own mind up about it. If I can play with it and touch it and feel it and make sense of it through my own experience. Long gone are the days where somebody would say something and I would say, okay, that must be true, because of somebody's tell you that especially in this world and the way that it's set up, the lies and the deceit and the distractions and the amount of smoke screens and the way the world is set up, so it's for me it's a direct experience only, and from that point I'll give my take on it. If I've not had the direct experience, I'm not really interested, and that's where the mission and what the mission has become and what I became as a result of that experience. It's never really been challenging. It really hasn't. It's never been hard. I understand how far out it is, especially in the early days. I could see my dad kind of looking at me when he discovered Facebook, as I did. I was never on Facebook. I never did it. I hated all that, all social media. I never did Instagram. But when I came back, it was almost like, right, you need to now take this to the world. You need to like share what you've got, and then off the back of some like really kind of gentle posts, very quickly I was into it, and then the poems started coming through again, which was something that was when I was at school. I had a brief kind of flurry into that a wee bit, without really having any confidence to express myself, I suppose. Being a football player, being that guy, but when they started coming through, I mean, you think about it, at the time, I was working in construction and the building trade, and all of a sudden I'm starting to throw poems up on social media, and then the nature of the poems, which was God and consciousness and awareness and all that kind of stuff. So interesting. I've never had much kind of pushback or people having a go at it. I've always felt that's because the truth is in it. People recognise the truth, even if they don't know what I'm saying, even if they don't know what I'm talking about. Again, that was an intention. That right at the start, I wanted to leave breadcrumbs so that anybody who was interested, it was so easy to jump in and give the answers and say like, and give direct, this is what it is and this is how it works. But I felt at the time it was very much like leaving breadcrumbs of the vibration of what it is, the truth of what it is, and really creating a bit of intrigue. That's the word I was looking for at the start, and try to make it intriguing with the title for the Godcast. Creating some sort of intrigue so that people like then go and like, what is this all about? What's he talking about? And then as I did, go on a journey. And that's happened, not that often, but it has happened over the years. But for me, the mission and the intention and the work that I'm doing is really just to help people remember the power that's inside of them, as I did. And purely because of what it did for me and what I believe that in fact I know that it's going to do to the world. And especially in these times, it's a really interesting time for me and for the work for the mission and the Vortex over the last 28 years of doing this. And now, where I'll never retire. This is my work for the rest of my days. I love this. This is all I do 24/7. This is basically my entire life, as well as the family stuff and bits and pieces as well. But it's almost it takes you over in certain ways. When it becomes a passion the way that it is for me, and how much I get out of it and how much other people get out of it also, then it's really easy, and that can be obviously a wee bit of a challenge as well when it becomes all-consuming almost. But the intention is to help people remember, that's it, to remember not just who we are, that question like who are you? Again, that's when you answer that question, a better question for me is like what are you? So all that you are, as opposed to who you are. Who is still, that's a lower level ego level of mind, that's still separation, that's still duality. And what I experienced was the oneness and the union with the divine. So the idea of me being separate from that, you can make sense of that from this level, this ego level of like Jim talking. But when you're in that level of consciousness and you're in that level of experience, then the idea of separation is a complete illusion. It feels like madness almost, that you could even consider yourself to be separate from it. And really interesting, the ego and the lower self and this human experience, how that's very much where 99.999% of the planet is. We're in separation and we're basically, we have no idea, not just like who we are or what we are or all that we are, but most people don't know what fucking day it is. That's the thing, trapped in the circus, trapped in the illusion, through indoctrination and programming and absolutely all of that for the day we're born. Different in different parts of the world, I would imagine, but certainly in the West, what we believe to be true and what we invest our life into is just insanity when you come from a different level of mind. And that's what the mission is. The mission is to basically to do away with that. And a wee while back, it came on the back of, it might have been Yoel Romero from the UFC, who had that might have been the first time I heard it. He called himself a soldier of God. And he was just awesome. He was an incredible, not just a martial artist, but as a human being. When you reach a certain level of consciousness, you get to really feel who people are. I remember watching him talking about God, and he was talking about Jesus, obviously coming from the religious perspective, and he was talking about being a soldier of God, like a Christian. But just the goodness that was in him, just the real kind of, the feeling and the knowing of this just absolute killer machine and how powerful he was growing up in Cuba. I don't believe he was ever into steroids, but he was just jacked and he had this kind of strength, this like godly strength about him. And hearing him standing in the octagon talking about being a soldier of God, that might have been the first place I got it. I can't remember. And a wee while later, I outed myself a wee bit and proclaimed myself to be a soldier of God, which is really what this work is. This work is all about, like standing up for the truth, standing up for the way, standing up for the light of the divine, and then trying to, explain what that is, and then trying to, you know, give people the experience of it, and then trying to, like, hopefully get them run about it enough that they get, you know, the shift that takes place in them and the experiences they get, like, hooks them in, so that they too can, you know, join this army of God, which is what this is. That's what this Godcast is. So it's no longer about being a soldier of God. I've already done that. I've spoke about that. I stand up for the light. I stand up for God. I stand up for Source, in a way that, you know, is difficult to understand, because most people, when you say that, think you're talking about religion, and that's where it is so different. Those soldiers of God, and I'm not talking about Yoel Romero here, I don't know his, like, real belief system, but when you see the world in the way that it's set up, you know, in terms of religion, and when you think as soldiers of God, you know, I was thinking this morning walking the dug in the rain, it's like they're almost like, they are armies, but no in the army I'm talking about. The army they're in is similar to, like, you know, probably like football teams, or like football, you know, the ultras, they kind of, they peoples, where they're basically fighting for an organisation. They're fighting for, you know, a section of, you know, whether it's the football team or whether it's the religion. And that very much depends on what family you're brought into and what part of the world you're brought into, depending on what team you support. And when you see organised religion, almost all of it, you know, how it's, what it's done to the world, first and foremost, you know, the possibilities of what it could do to the world. The uprising just now, you know, where you see the possibility of holy wars at some point in our lifetime, because people are so, you know, separated and standing in their belief systems, and so many of the religions have been wronged over the course of, you know, how far do you go back? You think of the Catholic Church. It terrifies me to think that I was born a Catholic, and how, you know, I recant my Catholicism. I give it up. I don't want anything to do with it because of what they've done. They took the teachings of Jesus, and then what they created with that, it's terrifying. You know, it's literally terrifying what they did to people, what they've done to peoples, what they've done to nations and countries, and decimation. You know, just the amount of death and destruction, and all in the name of God. You know, like their idea of what God is. You know, which is just, it's just tragic. You know, so to think of, you know, the types of armies of God, and how that needs to change. You know, how, you know, if you're standing under a banner thinking that my God or my evolved being, whether it's a saint or whether it's, you know, the one of the spokespersons for God, I'm being very careful the words that I use here, but how, you know, they take that interpretation, and they then use that, you know, as like, okay, so now we are more significant to God. And you're watching it just now in the Middle East, you know, what's going on there. They're using God in a book that was written maybe how many years ago, we don't know, and they use that to basically say, like, because this is written in this book, we can actually do what we want and eradicate through ethnic cleansing and genocide, you know, taking a people off the planet, what Israel's doing to the Palestinians just now. And the division that's causing, you know, with the people that from different, you know, belief systems and different religions, and how that escalates, and how it is escalating, and where it's going it's slightly terrifying when you consider it's all done in the name of God. And certainly from my perception, or my understanding of what God is, that's, you know, that's just, it's literal madness, it's insanity, and it's something that needs to stop. You know, so for me, you know, the mission of being a soldier of God and creating through inspiration and through direct experience and through realizations and people actually like feeling it in their heart and in their soul, as an army of God, and the real definition of God. I'm pretty sure that God, you know, when he sent his sons and his daughters down to spread the word, if that's what he did, then he didn't really tell them to go and like kill everybody else. And make sure that they know that you're the only way to get to me. I'm pretty sure that's not what God would have done. Even the idea that God is a human being, like an evolved, bigger, better version of us, is just insanity. It's just madness, you know. So it's really interesting, and it's slightly terrifying, and seeing what religion does and how it separates. And again, walking this morning, I was thinking about, you know, how they sell it, you know, what they actually do to the promises that they make in terms of what you're going to get, you don't get in this lifetime. That's a challenge to me. That's a huge challenge to me. It's almost like, you know, you've got all this like spiritual currency inside of it you don't know about. You know, the wealth of like experiences and the wealth of, you know, realizations and, you know, understanding of the power. The real power is inside of you. If you relate that to money, and then one day you realise it and you get it and you understand that it's actually inside of you. And you've got all this kind of spiritual currency, and then like, how do you spend it? I was out walking, and I was thinking about how it'd be like winning the lottery, and going to the whether it's a car showroom or whatever your fancy is, and you give them all the money, and the salesman says, fantastic, thanks for that check for whatever it is, and then you can't get it to the next life. You don't get it till you die, which is what religion does. It basically says you'll get it in the next life, you'll get it when you go to heaven. And what a sales technique, there's basically no comeback for that. There's no terms and conditions, there's no small print. You don't get it in this lifetime. You come to us and give whatever you need to give to us, which in the past is very different from now. Certainly in the West, organised religion is massively on the decline. I know it's coming a wee bit of a comeback, but the way that it was done before obviously can't work. The days are done because of the internet and because of people's levels of awareness, people understanding how the world goes together and seeing the sins of the past which were hidden before. To think that Jesus is the one that I use all the time, and I love Jesus Christ, I love Christ consciousness, I love the idea of the essence and the presence of that divine energy. It's something that I spend time with in meditation. I love the concept of Christ consciousness. It's absolutely so powerful, and the world absolutely needs it. There's no question about it. But you think of how, again, that the church took that and, that phrase, which keeps coming up just now, the only way, like Jesus is the only way to connect to the Father, so as if he's gave up his only son, and the only way to God is through Jesus Christ. And that's insanity to me. That's just that's a lie. That's a straight up lie, and you can feel that. And it just, you actually take the time to look at it and see what does that feel like. That's bullshit. If that's the only way to reconnect to God, like Jesus Christ, the only way to God, like, nah, I'm not having that. It doesn't feel right. It's not true. So that's a challenge, the way the world is and the way that it's going and the way that it's set up with all these kind of different factions and different religions starting to mobilise worldwide and starting to flex a wee bit. And it's happening in many parts of the world, not just in the Middle East. A lot going on in Africa just now. It's certainly happening in this country as well, in the UK. And it's that again to me is a massive distraction and a massive part of the problem. I almost feel that religion is one of the biggest distractions that we face. Because it's selling God, but it doesn't give you God. It's selling the idea of what God is, but at the same time, you can't get the direct understanding and the experience, which is most important of what God actually is. And that's the process that needs to take place for me. Is very, very simple, and it's actually quite easy when you understand how it goes together. I talk about enlightenment all the time, and that would be to discover the direct experience. Excuse me a wee second. The direct experience of the divine. Again, it's hidden in the text. The kingdom of God is within you. Be still and know that I am God. As above, so below. I am in the Father and the Father is in me. When I come back from that first experience, I saw through all the text, the Bible text, and I enjoy going to like weddings and funerals now and listening in to hearing the scripture in ways that I never heard before. You just get to see things, again, whether it's hidden in plain sight, whether it's done through sorcery or trickery or, the illusion by design, probably, possibly. But the direct experience and the knowing is the important part. Because when you're in religion, it's a lot of faith and it's a lot of guessing, it's a lot of like what they say. Again, it's taking somebody else's word for it. And spirituality is going from the guessing and the kind of the faith part of it to the actual knowing. To know something that's real. Again, Wayne Dyer taught me that, like to know what is real, what is actually real. And otherwise, you're just taking somebody else's word for it, or what somebody said, or what Jesus' take was on it, like how many thousand years ago. One of the great spiritual teachers that I've listened to in the past talks about how St. Paul never ever met Jesus. I think a lot of the apostles, I always believed that the apostles were there all at the same time and they lived with Jesus. And when you listen to a lot of the kind of, certainly the Indian like yogis' perspectives on it, and some evolved saints and high level beings, to say the least, they talk about how that wasn't the case, how a lot of these, the disciples and the apostles, and they came at a later time, and it was really stuff that was being passed down, and it's like almost like Chinese whispers, when you pass on the message and you whisper the message on, by the time it gets down the road, never mind if it gets like centuries down the road, and people are starting to, split into different ways and starting to use it to, for their own self-gain, at that point it becomes, obviously compromised, so to experience all that you are, that's what it's all about for me. To remember, obviously there's nothing to learn this, it's about remembering the power that's inside of you. You come into this world with it, We come from source, we come from that space that is divine. Some people call it God. We come from the field of consciousness. We carry it inside of us. I know that. I absolutely know it. When we die, we get back to it. I know that also because my mum died. My hand was on her heart and I could feel when she died. I could feel her spirit in the room, but her body was like an empty suitcase. So then death became an illusion instantly through direct experience. So the process to understand and reconnect back into that spirit, it's about getting out the head. It's all about switching off the mind. If you're busy in your mind, if you're busy in your intellect, if your head's switched on, you're overthinking, you're in stress. Again, this might be one of the reasons that they keep us in this information age. They keep us distracted at all times. There are so many distractions. This entire world is actually a distraction. You think about even the stuff that we do in terms of the things we need to do to earn money, to go to work, to put food on the table and to pay the taxes and to, just to live, just to survive. How many distractions and how it's been set up, to keep us in this place of, like always trying to get there and always trying to work it out and always trying to, like, in this entire realm, this third dimensional world that we're in, this ego-based, money-based, success-based. It's just madness the way that it's set up, and none of it's real. It's all a distraction. The whole thing's a distraction. I see it as a circus. I really do. I laugh often when I see stuff that entertains people online, and you can't get away from it. But as soon as you've got social media, which I use for posting, I put my posts up. But the minute you turn it on, then the reels will come up. People, and it's interesting. I tap in to see how funny it is. I really do. I tap in to see where the circus is at. The dude, the boxer, one of the clowns that's doing all the boxing just now, the kind of fake boxers, and how he's threatening to sue people that are basically calling his career a fake. And you're going, what career are you talking about? All these like ex-pros that are on the downside of their career, and a lot of them got nothing left, and they're basically being brought in to be used as a punch bag for him to obviously boost up their bank, but to then propel him and keep him going and create something that isn't real. It's not real. It's not a sport. It's like WWE. There's obviously scripts and contracts in place where people know what's happening. UFC, I believe, is the exact same. I watched that with McNugget when he took out Cowboys. I used to love the UFC. When I was into martial arts and karate and jiu-jitsu later on, I loved it. I loved the concept of, not the blood side of it. And I would always turn it. I used to struggle and I'd turn it off when the blood came. When it was the ground and pound stuff, but the jiu-jitsu side of it and the difference, before it was really MMA against MMA, it was like different art forms, so karate against jiu-jitsu against wrestling. I loved all that, and it was really when I remember when McGregor come back, and after watching Donald Cerrone so many different times, just wars, absolute wars the guy was in. And literally getting his head taken off, almost like losing, just insanity, the battles that he came through. And then watching McGregor when he came back, and I've not been after McGregor, I've just been calling him out forever. My son used to speak with McGregor before he was in the UFC, so I've known about Conor McGregor. And one of the life coach clowns that I used to know and help, he was a big fan of McGregor when he came on the scene. He used to talk about him, the law of attraction, and Conor's the man. I'm like, I could just see who he was for the very beginning. And when Conor basically, when he beat Cowboy Cerrone with a shoulder, he knocked him out with a shoulder. I just saw it straight away. If I watched it live, and I can remember watching it and just seeing it for what it was. It's like the WWE. McGregor had to win. They had to bring him back. And this Cowboy Cerrone's on the other end. He's in the way of his career, and it was just like, when you get to see through stuff and you feel things in a certain way. And at the time there was loads of videos about how he was pulling his punches when he was down on the ground, and loads of conspiracy stuff, which are no longer there, funnily enough. You can't see them anymore. And the circus, the distraction, whether it's UFC, whether it's boxing, whether it's football, whether it's religion, whether it's politics, whether it's wars, choose your poison. It's everywhere. It's choose a side just now. And the circus continues, the zoo continues. It's just it's a jungle. It is the law of a jungle just now, and it's interesting to watch, but very, very dangerous in terms of where we're going and where the world is. And that's why this intention to create an army of God and to let people understand and know what God is through direct experience. It's never been a more relevant time. It's never been a more important time for people to get on about it. Why? Because it's the only thing that fixes all the challenges we face. There is nothing else fixes us. We're so far gone. We're so far lost and broken and down and separated from even what it means to be a human being. When you think of all the stuff that's going on, with people don't even know if they're a boy or a girl anymore. They don't know what sex they are. They don't know. They don't know fucking up for down or back for front. People don't know what day it is, a lot of them. You add into that the medications and the illnesses and the diseases and the stress and the strain and this information, this constant stream of like just toxic, poisonous information that's getting fed every single day, then they wonder we've been separated, you know. So the process to reconnect, the process to remember, the process to take back our power, that's what the mission is, you know. That's what the mission is. And the good news for me is how quick it can happen, how quick you can basically turn the tide, and how quick you can stop the rot. And reconnect people back to, you know, what is real, and through direct experience, which is the most important part. You can't talk about it; it doesn't work. People need to experience it, and it's all about, you know, getting back into the heart, getting back into the soul, switching off the head, you know, so you can't think. So many people are in chronic stress. So many people don't sleep. So many people are in a constant state of like high alert. You know, like overactive brain, overactive mind, never-ending loop of like conscious thinking, like trying to work out answers, trying to survive, basically in a survival state. So once you go through the process, once you go through the reconnection, it's dead simple. You know, it's a really simple process that allows that to happen. But I see miracles every day, and I literally see miracles every single time somebody gets on about this work. Even just switching off stress, even just like having somebody lie down or sit up, you know, and give them peace of mind. Like, let them experience complete peace of mind so they can't think. You know, like, and that's simple to do. That's dead easy to do. You know, and that's before you even get into things like breath work. And the power of the breath and what happens when you learn how to breathe with proper function, before you even get to intentional breathing, you know, like taking yourself for your head and reconnecting back into your heart and back into your soul. It's the breath is a bridge, absolutely, but watching people get it, watching people experience it. I saw it yesterday again. This human being literally looked 10 years younger inside an hour. And they weren't that old, in their mid-20s, you know, but the stress and the strain and the tiredness and just that constant inflammation and stress and, you know, just sympathetic nervous system, fight and flight all the time, and survival, and being no well, and all the symptoms and the effects that are starting to manifest because you're living in that state of kind of that level of, you know, that way of living, that level of stress at all times, including sleep. Amazing how many people don't sleep, you know, and eventually does catch up with us. So to give somebody the gift of taking them in a really short internal journey out of the head and all the challenges that faces, and give basic awarenesses, you know, like that, because that's what it's about. It's all about awareness. Ignorance means we don't know. When we're in ignorance, we just don't know. So to give basic awarenesses through direct experience of what this is all about, that's the only way that I can sell it, that I can give it to people, is through the experience of it. And it happens so quickly. It's one session, you know, people can come in and they can switch off their mind, and they can stop thinking, they can experience peace of mind. And from there the journey begins, because once I've got you and we're using the guided language to reconnect, you know, back into how you're meant to feel. We're supposed to feel good. That's a fact. Human beings are supposed to feel good. They're meant to be happy. We're supposed to be joyful and easy and sleep good and have fun, and that's the way I do believe this world should be. It should literally be heaven and earth. And how is it? Why is it not like that? And how many people live in that way? Like, not that many, you know, because of the way the world's been set up. You know, so the good news is the process and the experience and the reconnection and how that goes together. Is really, really simple. That's what the entire program is about. That's everything that I'm doing. Is the program's it's the art of intentional living. It's about how you live, you know, take back control and take back your power, and learn the way that it's meant to be. The way is the way. Learn back to the natural path, the natural process of how it's meant to be. It's so powerful, and it's so simple, and it's so easy. And again, I saw it again yesterday. Just like, it's such common sense, but unless you've been like shown it and given it, and being able to experience it, you would never work it out. People have no reason. They're too far gone. People are too lost, you know, to have even any concept of trying to make sense of, you know, like where to even begin. You know, and that's what I've done over the last 20 years, is work it out, and now it's passing it on. And that isn't easy. The work that's involved in it isn't easy. It really isn't. This work is dead simple, and I absolutely love it. But the most frustrating part is like being able to like get enough people on about it, to create this army of God. That's the difficult part. The work never stops. I never get a break from it. There's a phrase from Sajmar called constant remembrance, where I am always, I think particularly this year, possibly for the first time in a long time, since, you know, before that, my devotional journey to experience enlightenment, up to that point, it was all consuming. Like, especially the closer I was getting to it, I could feel something really significant and powerful was coming. This massive shift in consciousness I was about to get. And then after that, the wheels come off, and it's all right, okay, what's next? And then off the back of that, the breathwork and the cold exposure and the vortex opening up, vortex was first, and then all that came about off the back of that. And then the journey for the last, since 2016, has been helping people. Like, teach the basics, I suppose, the breathwork and things like cold exposure, things like heat exposure, things like relaxation, things like meditation, the awareness as to how you live your life. If you want to experience what I'm talking about, the path, how to do that, how everything matters, the journey to mastery of the self, mastery to the higher self and the lower self. That's the whole system. That's what it's all about. And for me, where I'm at just now, and how, I suppose, how much more open and verbal I'm being with it, I suppose probably more confidence with it as well. At this point, I don't give a fuck anymore. I really don't. It's like, this is the truth. I work for God. I'm here for the divine. I'm here for the light and the truth. Why? Because the evidence of the world isn't working, and so many people are sick. Heard again yesterday about another suicide. It isn't working. It's not even heartbreaking anymore. It just needs fixed. We know how bad it is. We can see how bad it is. We know the horrors of the world. And so many people now, because of the truth of it, understand like how it's happening and why it's happening. So at that point, we need to do something about it. And for me, it's dead simple. You stand tall, you speak your truth. You're in that state of, inspiration. So you get into spirit and you tend to yourself, and you sign it over to God every single day. And really recently, it's became almost all-consuming again, to the point where it's very tiring. I'll no lie, it takes a lot out of me. Being this switched on all the time with it, even during sleep. The new process I've been working on the last kind of couple of weeks about asking for help from the divine before I go to bed, based on the back of some new meditation, the inspiration that's coming through the meditations and access to different things that I didn't even know existed before, which has been interesting. But even now in sleep, I'm waking up and it's almost like either last night was like finished at 10:30 last night from 4 yesterday morning, never stopped, and shut my eyes and woke up and it was 5 to 6 this morning, just nothing, just blackness. And then other times I'm waking up with these like epic battles and dreams that I've been through for the previous 46 hours, and I wake up with downloads, and I wake up with like direct instruction. That's where the reconnection meditation came through. It came through Babaji, one of my teachers, and it's like, this is what you need to do. This is a direct instruction of what you're now being assigned to do. A live meditation every single day. I had no intention of doing that. I like going to the golf at night time when I'm finished, or if I don't have a class on, or I'm not coaching, then golf at night time for me is great. So to think now I need to be back here for 8 every night to set up the recording studio and set up the live videos and all that kind of stuff, it's wait a minute, that sounds like a wee bit of hard work, but that's what was given. And the choice becomes whether you do it or not. That's the work. The work for me is to take it to the world and keep shouting about it. In a way that's not really, I'm not trying to shove it down anybody's throat. I'm offering an answer. I'm offering a solution. I do believe I'm offering a different way of living and being that fixes every single thing that it touches. And at that point, you wonder where everybody is. So I'm constantly working on new ways of how I can deliver that message. And obviously, the best way to do it is people to come. That's the only way that it really works. So you offer the signal. A great analogy way back. Again, another human being stole this from me. I gave it to him and he stole it for his own. There's a great picture of a lighthouse. It wasn't mine, but I found it. A great picture of a lighthouse, and what the caption says was that the lighthouse does not go on about the island looking for boats to save. It just stands there and shines. And I love that. I love the idea of that, just like shining the light and staying in your lane, I suppose. And being in spirit and getting it for yourself, and it's really the boats that it attracts, those that are lost at sea, many of them at night in the darkness when they lights and they feel broken and almost shipwrecked. And then they see the light, and at that point, I love when that happens, when somebody sees the light and they need the light, and there's like, right, okay, what is this? What is it you're doing? What's it all about? And then you get on about it. The army we're already creating, the people that are on about this already is just wonderful. The goodness that's on about this program just now, the good people and the power that's in it, the truth that's in it, the amount of people that don't have a mask, that they're just authentic human beings. They speak their truth, and we saw it again. I'll speak a wee bit about the class we did on Friday night in at Glasgow, but 1 or 2 new people that stayed at the end. And just listening to them, their accounts of the people they met and how honest and open and just friendly people were. And that's what we are, that's what this is, because there's no masks, there's no fake, there's no false, there's no drama, there's no bullshit, there's no ego. It's just, it's real, it's truth, it's the way, it's the path. It's this work absolutely cleanses and purifies all of that. And it's all about egoectomies, getting rid of the ego as quick as we can, and all standing together for the greatest good and helping this world get back on its feet. So the work never ends. It's I love it. It's fantastic. I'm absolutely blessed. I'm so grateful. The information that's coming through and the inspiration that's coming through, and the people that I stand beside, and the message and what it does for people, the power that's in it, how it helps, like every single thing that it touches. I can say that hand in heart. That's the literal truth. That this work and the power that's in it, and what it does for people. It's not this is what you need to do. It's not that, and it's no me giving instructions of what people should do. It's given an experience and a reconnection process to remember the power that you require and the answers and the solutions you require are inside you. That's the difference in it. It's no me, it's the way. It's the natural path and the way that it's meant to be. I really reconnect people back to that. And then the program absolutely gives like foundations in terms of tools and techniques and principles and I suppose ideologies and stuff that what you need to navigate through this world, basic awarenesses I suppose, and living with intention, absolutely, and then the significance of being in alignment, being like why you need to do this, why you should do this because of what it does for you. But there's never any like this is direct instruction, this is what you need to do. It's like this is how it works, and this is what we do, and this is what I do, and if you do this, there's a really strong chance if you apply yourself you're going to get the same results. And then you take those results, which are well-being and feeling good and being happy and being joyful, and then you get to go through free will, your own free will, and do whatever the fuck you want. You're here for your own experience, you're here to get it for yourself, whatever that is for you. We're all here with our own mission, I do believe, placed inside our hearts. So at that point, like, nobody can ever tell you what to do. You need to go and work that out for yourself. And your guidance system will navigate you your way through this world. And as the most important part is fulfilling your potential. So when you get to the end, you stand before God and she asks you, like, how did it go? How did your day? How was it? To have done your best, to say I did my best, it would be great. That's goal number one. And if you can get to the next part, which is to fulfill your potential, then you've done it. You do your best and you try your best every single day, and that's what this is. It's the art of intentional living. That's the work, and it's just absolutely blessed. And the obstacles are real, the challenges are real. So many challenges in the world with this work. The level of ignorance. Where do you even start with that? Ignorance is our only sin. That's what Jesus, Krishna and the Buddha said. Ignorance, we don't know. We just, again, because it's been hidden from us, so it's not anybody's fault. Ignorance just means we don't know. They don't know. And awareness is the opposite of that. That's why the power of awareness is everything. The ability to transcend ignorance through direct experiences, what it's all about. And for many people, the ignorance of what they believe to be true, their belief system, their intelligence, their indoctrination and programming. I heard a couple of times this week different people who have been running about medical professionals, doctors, GPs, professors, that kind of stuff, and you can just hear. You get a flavour of the conversation and offering perhaps a different way of doing things or a different way of finding health and well-being. One of the things I watched yesterday was talking about how medicine and that medical model, how it treats the disease. It's not about well-being or getting healthy or being vital. It's basically treating a disease with a pre-assigned medication. That, funnily enough, the same companies that own the food manufacturers and the stuff that makes us sick, the same companies, when you go right up to the top of the tree and see through the veil, they own the same companies that basically provide the answer. They create the problem and then they provide the answer with their petrol-based medications that when you sit down and ask doctors, as I did, my mum was not well, like, how does this work? Does this work? And how does it work? And will it work? And every single time, the amount of times I would call, I can make my mum get a wee bit, like, if you're going to put this into your body, like, what's the success rate? How does it work? Is this going to work for her? Is this going to heal her? And the amount of times you would just go, well, it's not quite as straightforward as that, and it's no, well, it fucking is. It's an I or a no. Where are the answers? Where are the numbers to suggest and tell us the truth in terms of this works or it doesn't? And that's where, and again, every single psych drug and every antidepressant, there's no evidence to say that this absolutely works. It's people's belief system and people's expectation when they take the drug. That's so much more powerful than whatever's in the fucking pills. that many times are compromising you and making you worse than you would ever be without them, you know. But it's that, again, it's that victim consciousness of something external to me that's been trained into us. You can't do it yourself, so they need to do it for you. The system, the doctors, the experts that have spent 7 years listening to bullshit in fucking universities, when they come out and they prescribe your drug, they know better than you because they're a doctor, you know. And again, what's the evidence? Does this actually work? Is this going to fix me? And they'll never ever say yes. You never get a doctor to say, aye, this will absolutely work. You know, so at that point, there's a challenge. So people's intelligence and what they've been trained to believe within the circus, what we've been grown up in, the education, and the brighter that people are, the more difficult it is to change it. I mean, your belief system's everything, and what you believe yourself to be. How many people that are really smart are ever wrong? They're never wrong. You know, to think that they're wrong, to convince a doctor that, you know, medication might not be the best way to do it, and there'll be more benefits in breath work and switching off your nervous system and clearing up your diet and going to sleep properly and resting at the right level, and meditation and acupuncture, and the stuff has been about forever, like 5, 10, an eternity. Meditation's been about forever. You know, so to think the benefits of that and the healing that can take place within that, you know, Joe Dispenza's getting literal miracles. Scientifically documented miracles, people healing for stuff you can't fix with medicine. And that's been proven because they're going in after getting through cancer treatments and getting bits of their body cut out, and then Joe Dispenza takes them in and teaches them to meditate and reconnect to the field. And this is all documented. You know, and you can just feel, I'm surprised he's still about because of the science and the danger the threat that he poses for science. You know, like, can heal yourself by the power of your intention, you know, by learning what epigenetics are and be able to upregulate your genes and change the gene expression, and like, fucking well done to him. And it's the same stuff as I'm doing, you know, where, excuse me, without having the possibilities of science or, you know, having that education. I know enough about it. I know enough about biology and how it goes together, and I've watched enough online, and I've sat with some of the best teachers in the world now, and I'm educated in that way. But the means to actually do the scientific, like, documentation, I wish I had his machinery and his staff to basically get somebody in. When somebody comes in here and they're broken with addiction, or they've lost everything, or they've attempted suicide, and watching what happens inside a couple of hours when you basically teach them to breathe and reconnect them back into their heart and their soul. I'd love to be able to take their bloods, you know, and see the markers, and I'd love to be able to, like, see their biological age and take Carillion photography, like, take photographs of them to see their energy fields and what happens when they simply stop. You know, and they simply switch off the stress, and they simply reconnect back into their heart and their soul, and they reconnect back to the divine. I would love to see that. That's maybe something to stick on the list once we get there. You know, so the challenges are real, the distractions are everywhere. For many people, it's too late. For many people, it's already too far gone. For many people, are already compromised too much because of the medications and the food and, you know, the life that they've been living since they've been born. It's not their fault. It's a bloody shame. You know, but for many it is too late, unfortunately, and they'll just need to wait till maybe next time around to have another go at it, and hopefully learn from the lessons of and the mistakes of this lifetime, and, you know, hopefully come back and do it in a different way. You know, the ego, human ego, the belief system, you know, that lower level of mind, knowing that it's right, coming from the knowing that the mind. I mean, you understand how, like, limited the mind is and the intellect. How just low level thinking, no matter how bright you are. Hawkins talks about it a lot, you know, where, you know, where the intellect stops, you know, on the scale of consciousness, how all the great scholars, all the real greats, the mathematicians and the scientists, basically on the scale of consciousness, they only ever make it up to 499. And then above that, you start to get into the realm of the saints in terms of how they calibrate. Very interesting. You know, so the ego and the belief system and the mind and the science, you know, this new religion of science. We saw that with COVID, you know, like how they became, this is it. And science is a language. You know, it's only a language. It's a way of, it's like mathematics. It's a way of expressing, like, something. But it doesn't explain everything, and it's certainly not the answers for everything. And we can see that now, the kind of fallout for COVID off the backside of that. Many people are suffering. It's fascinating, that whole thing, you know. So the obstacles and the challenges are real. It's very, very frustrating sometimes, to the point where, you know, you see where people are, and the amount of times over the past where I know, like, the desire to help somebody, and you know how much this would help them, and you watch them just, the amount of people that don't come when you'll meet somebody, what do you do? You know, and you'll have a conversation with them, and you can just see the light in them coming on, like, holy fuck, I've been searching for years to try and switch off my stress and stop my panic attacks, and, you know, find like relief and learn how to sleep properly, and without even ever getting any progress, and in fact getting worse and worse and worse very quickly as they age, so much quicker because they're in constant stress. And the conversations that I have with them, and it's like, this is how this works, this is how it goes together, this is what we do. And I'm probably too open at that point. I should probably just keep my mouth shut and let them get the experience. I don't try and sell it, but I get very excited with it. I get inspired with it, but the desire to help, you know, it's a pure intention. But over the years, many people never show up. They never come. They just, for whatever reason, whether they share it with their partner, you know, whether they get distracted, whether they kind of talk themselves out it, because, again, being in the knowing, the comfort of even disease and the certainty of where they're at, especially if they're victims, you know, and they're looking always for somebody else to do it for them. And I'm talking about self-reliance, and I'm talking about, you know, like this, like empowering and you know, breaking the chains and all that kind of stuff. I can understand that would put a lot of people off, come to think about it. So maybe need to change my tact, my sales pitch. But it's all with the purest of intentions, is to help people, you know. So the mission, the process, the work, the obstacles, the challenges that we face, that I face, this work faces, you know, this army of God that we are creating, this army of light, this army of pure intention and goodness, and, you know, just possibilities. And there's so much power in it. There's so much power in the people. And the dream for me is to have everybody, the entire world, if we had all to sit. Wayne Dyer again said, this was going back 25 years. The problems of the Middle East then, he says, the only thing I would like to do with the Middle East is get 1 million people, I'm sure it was 1 million, and just surround the Middle East and have them meditating and like project love, is what he meant. That's not what he said, but project love and that pure intention into the Middle East, and see if we can heal that region. And here we are in 2025, you know, and just never been further away from the way that it's meant to be, you know, the truth, the light of the divine, the knowledge of God, you know, the knowing that it's inside of you, that power that you're seeking, or at least you should be seeking, you carry it inside of you. And what a place to hide it, you know, what a place to hide the power, the understanding that we come in with it, and it's in there at all times. And through the separation game, you know, with the schools and the medications and the traumas and the diet and, you know, the breakup of homes and what we watch, and, you know, whether it's music or whether it's film or whether it's like, choose your poison, it's everywhere. The separation takes place at some point, for many people really young. Childhood traumas and all that kind of stuff, you know, so it's easy to get separated from it. That's why they do it. That's why all the kids' films, and that's why all the Disney stuff, and that's why it's done by design. It's hidden, you know, and your unconscious mind is picking it up, and the agenda is to take you that innocence, that divine perfection, that divine innocence that we come in. That's why I am so protective of children, to protect that godly innocence of the children when they come in is so important. That's why when you see the films and what they do in the films and how they hide it in the films, that needs to stop, you know. So the way is the way, the truth, the light, having faith in all of that, because I know it, and knowing that it's the answer, knowing that it fixes everything that it touches. The divine is inexhaustible, and it's very much, as Hawkins says, power versus force. The power of God and the power of the light. There's nothing can come its way. The darkness and all that bullshit and all the kind of the sneakiness that you see, when you understand the power of the divine, there's not a single thing can come its way that's ever a challenge to it, you know, and that's exciting. And, you know, to get back into balance, to get back into coherence with that, to be in alignment with the divine, that comes through the direct experience. That comes through, you know, this work. This is a way to do it. This is one way to do it. It's not the only way. I would say, but it is one way. It's definitely a path towards it. You know, and it's all about getting back into balance and back to the way that it's meant to be. And remembering at all times, you know, as I'm watching this just now, they talk about the Great Reset. I've known forever that this Great Reset that's taking place, this is divine order. This needs to happen. You know, the world needs to get reset. Hopefully that's not through nuclear war and decimation, but it needs to basically stop. You know, it needs, the wars and the killing and the injustices and the balance of power and resources needs to stop. So at that point, you know, God doesn't make mistakes. I know that. You know, the way nature and, you know, the yin and yang and the darkness and the light and the balance of the universe, it's always in coherence. I mean, you realise how small we are. We're a speck. This whole planet, you know, we think we're all it. We think this is it. This is a speck, you know, in terms of the field of consciousness, you know, which is eternal. And in every direction, that unified, you know, field of infinite intelligence and divine perfection, you know, you think of how insignificant and how small this is. but it needs to be in balance, so it's the reset is on, and unfortunately, we need to go through it as human beings for whatever reason. We're here to do work, we're here to get it for ourselves, we're here to make sense of it, and many of us are here to help, and that's what this is about, and that's where the army of God, an army of love and awareness and light and truth, to get it back to the way that it's meant to be, that's what we're assembling here, so really grateful for that. So to access all of that, a wee second. The work doesn't stop. There's so many different ways you can access now through the Vortex. The programme's live again, which is magic. So much gratitude to Michael and Fern getting it back. It's now back online. We've got an app. We've got our own app, which is brilliant. Excited for that. The community is growing stronger every day. Within the community, and I'm talking about all the time, the community is what it's all about. It's on this intentional journey with others, sharing your journey with other human beings that are on the same page, that understand the language, that understand this path, that get you, when you're having these realizations and you're having these, quantum shifts in your own understandings through awareness. It's very important to have the community around about you, and that's what the programme is. It's in two different bits. There's the tools and the techniques and the videos and the lessons and all the guided, whether it's breath work, whether it's cold exposure, whether it's heat exposure, whether, all the different types of breath work, all the hundreds of hours of meditations that I've done over the last 18 months that have been recorded every single time I speak into the mic when I'm doing a class, which is twice a day. We're live twice a day now in the sacred space, and well, one of those is 9 o'clock at night, which is recorded every night, so that goes onto the bank. So every recording that's been done over the last 18 months is basically, you're able to access it through the app, and you can tune into whatever you need. Some people need to be upregulated in the morning time. You go into a building site, you need a wee bit of fight in you, then there's a way to do that. Some people want to be chill, and some people haven't slept too well, and some people are struggling with anxiety or depression. So there's different strokes for different folks. There's all different ways to do this. And that's where having them on access. Somebody messaged me this morning who I've seen this week, and is there any chance you can leave me a recording of what you took me through? Which I heard every single time for years and years and years. When I took somebody through breathwork, the amount of times somebody would ask me, when are you going to record this? When is this going to be captured? And it was quite funny texting them back, the message I left them this morning, basically saying, look, that's what the programme is. The programme is that and so much more. All the stuff you went through, all the lessons, so you've got it again. It's such a huge amount of information and inspiration when you get through a process, like a 5-hour process. The reconnect, reset and reconnect process I take people through before you even get to the ice or the heat exposure. But to go away then and try and recreate that on your own, you can't do it. It's impossible. You need somebody to guide you, and then that's why I created it. That's why we did it. Was so you can basically tap into it anytime you want. The programme is live, and really grateful that it's back on side again. It's £1 a day. It's a subscription. It's £1 a day that you can basically leave anytime you want. We tried all different ways, like signing up for the year, and with a mentorship program, which we're still looking at as well. But I'm basically coaching on the app, on the community every day anyway, as well as there's other teachers on it as well that are basically chipping in, and there's some really evolved human beings within this now. Many have experienced enlightenment, which is fascinating, and really kind of just grateful for them, and blessed that they are on the same path and on the same page, and putting in their bit, their take on things. Some really evolved human beings, many of them like a long time before they came here, and then watching what's happened, being on about this work. Really blessed with some incredible teachers that are on about us just now, and we're all rising together. We're all making sense of it and making our way through it together, which is beautiful. That's the community, and that's the programme, and it's live again, and it's £1 a day. So excited for that. And there will be a relaunch at some point. We put it up there. I kind of wanted it to be organic, if I'm honest. I couldn't be bothered with a big session and all that kind of stuff. I just wanted to right, it's done. It's been done for 6 months. We took it down because it was getting updated and upgraded. It took a lot longer than we thought it was going to. But it's so worth it now, and especially the evolution I've been through in the last few months, and where I'm at just now in terms of, it's now very much the programme itself, and then there's a spiritual community within it. And the meditations, which are every single day, twice a day, where I basically hold the space, and the transmission comes through me, through one of my teachers. There's a picture of him right underneath the camera, Babaji. It's just so grateful for that relationship and everyone that's coming through that system. We are blessed. We are so blessed in so many different ways, and that's twice a day. And then the live, the reconnection, which is on again tonight. Last night was fantastic, but it was also a disaster at the same time from my perspective. It's just amazing when you're relying on digital And I'm not trained in any of this stuff, so even recording this and now I've got the computer in the background and Michael set it up for me, and this is my 52nd time, so I should know what I'm doing. Even the recordings I've done online, like going to Zoom and recording, which is a different way of doing it. I've done that hundreds of times now for the community. And last night we had the sound check just before we went live. It was the first one. I felt a wee bit nervous before it. It's different when there's new people coming in and you're trying to give them the experience and you're trying to give them as much as you can, but at the same time you want to let them get the meditation and create the space. It's a fine line. And very much dependent on where I'm at, and what's coming through me. And I was in such a great place last night. I spoke for too long yesterday, and I had a wee bit of nerves on me, if I'm being honest, about getting into it. And 18 people showed up, which was brilliant. That number 18, again, one power infinitely seems to keep appearing. And as soon as everybody came in and I went to start it, then Zoom basically cut off completely and died on me. And then instantly it jumped back on again, but when it came back I had no camera, so people couldn't see me. It showed me on the screen my camera was down. So that to have to reset that, and nightmare, especially for me when I'm now trying to talk to, and there's 18 people, even though I couldn't see their faces, they're looking at you, but they couldn't see me, which kind of threw me a wee bit of a curveball. Felt a wee bit weird, the fact that nobody could see me. So I just jumped right into it. I just started and I got into it, and what had happened when Zoom basically cut off, it cut the music, so there's a share option in Zoom to share the music from my computer. So I play from my music source and I play the music, and at the same time I'll speak over the top of it. So the words and the guidance is supported by the music. It's a wonderful way of doing it. I think it's the most powerful way of doing it. It's really, it's an incredible experience that people go through, and it's a way that I always do it, almost always. Sometimes I do it in silence, but most of the time it's with the guidance of the music. And then close my eyes and get straight into it for probably half an hour, from a back of 9 after the introduction of what was going to happen, right up until about probably 9:30, 25 to 10. And then I had a couple of messages for the inner circle basically saying there's no music, and then I looked up and the music had basically, when it glitched, it cut the supply and the stream of the music off. So when I'm thinking the music, I could hear the music, so I had a great time. The music was awesome last night, but those who were tuning in had no music. And then I was left with a kind of, I suppose, that what do you do? Do you put the music on at the end? And I played music for the last couple of tracks just for the very end of the meditation, which wasn't ideal. But it was great. Again, people, the response, and one of the jokes I made within the community is that God's one only voice is silence. So to sit and it's always, you do your best, especially with the electronic stuff, and especially with these different apps and how things go together. You do your best. And last night was very powerful. The meditation was incredible. I loved it. And again, as well as being members of the public, people that are being drawn towards the meditations, it's £1, incidentally, it's £1, the reconnection's £1 a day. And if you're in the programme, it's for free. So there was programme members came in. They're always in at 9 o'clock. Most of them are in at 9 o'clock most nights in the meditation. So it was great to have the programme members there as well. Better quality than just me doing it upstairs. I normally do it just on my laptop, and it's just a silent meditation with music playing, but because it was guided last night, it was nice. Didn't even record it. The recording basically cut off, and it was a bit of a plane crash. It wasn't ideal, and I'm hoping to do much better tonight. And it's going to be every night for the month of July, 9 o'clock. The intention's simple: to give the experience of meditation, to give people, explain what meditation is, to show them the bridge into meditation, to take them through my process, the intentional breath, a wee bit of functional breathing, how you're meant to breathe, all with the desire to get out of this and to reconnect back into this, to connect back into the self, back into the heart and back into the soul. That's what it's all about. And in that process we reconnect with each other, which absolutely happened last night. And then the ultimate is to connect to God, isn't it? And that's back to the source, back to the divine mind that we carry inside of us. So it's actually quite easy. And the power that's in those groups, online is fantastic, in person is even better. Excited for the month and just to see how it goes. And in person, the yoga barn in Glasgow on Friday night was just incredible. Again, thanks to those, I think it was 18 again showed up for that. It was maybe 20, and with a couple of cancellations and a couple of people signed up at the last minute, so I'm sure there was 18 in that room again. Fascinating, that number, how it just keeps appearing. And what a night it was. There was a whole load of new people that had never been before. One has already signed up and joined the programme. Really grateful for him. A yogi, a beautiful human being, and just watching, I can tell straight away where somebody's at, and you can see where what they're getting from the information and what they get when you get into the meditation. And the power in that room, in that yoga barn, on Friday night, what we created, that sacred space, as it is already, the work that takes place in there is incredible. But when we added what we brought to it, our sprinkling of inspiration, being in spirit, sitting in union, probably 8 to 10 people for the program, many of whom have experienced the divinity that's inside of them. So when we get into meditation, like buckle up, it's going to happen. It's when you're in the vicinity of that, when you run about that combined intention and that power within that group, it's very powerful. It really is. It's really special. I'm really grateful for the program members that came and got run about it. And that's going to be 25th of July is the next one. Excited for that. And thank you to those who came and appeared as they did last night for the reconnection online, and also I suppose the programs, the kind of, that seems to be the main vehicle just now, and then there's the retreats. The retreats, we're just about to announce another one, a reconnection retreat up at Burnallock Farm, up to see Helen and Stuart again. That's going to be the first weekend of September, Friday to Sunday. That'll be released over the next couple of weeks. It's going to be limited spaces, and that's like a weekend long retreat of all the stuff that I teach. It's about getting on about the work, getting on about the people, the diet, the detox for the phone, giving yourself a break from reality, learning how to breathe, learning how to meditate. The cold water up there is incredible. Just being in that space where the phone doesn't work, and being with each other in nature. And then all the different stuff I've got planned for the weekend, just the opening circle is already exciting me, just getting to know who people are and people speaking their truth and talking about why they're there and hearing about people's journey. I love hearing people's journey. I love their story. I love where they've been and what they've been through, and that can be heavy going sometimes, but then obviously the reason for getting that up is to basically the answers and the solutions to how we get people at the other side of that, and then having a whole weekend to get on about this work and to get on about this level of consciousness, through meditation, and the power of intention to go there as the desire is to basically expand and to become and to heal, and to again realization. It's the realization of the power that's inside and it's available to us all, and that's where this is all going just now. So at that point, I'm expecting miracles that weekend. I think it's definitely the first weekend of September. The dates, is it 5th, 6th and 7th? Maybe I need to check that, but definitely the first weekend of September. And the places are going to be limited, so excited for that as well. So loads of good stuff going on. Great time to get on about it. Anybody who's lost, anybody who's broken, anybody who's suffering, anybody who's trapped or in a place of separation, then this is what I'm doing. This is what this is all about. It's to reconnect and to remember, so you can start enjoying your life, and get it back to the way that it's meant to be. And that's what the army of God is all about. There's so many of us now standing in the light, standing in the truth through awareness and direct experience. That there is a solution, there absolutely is an answer, and the way is the way. So excited, and as always, onwards and up as one. Thanks for tuning in. God bless you and yours. Take it easy. Peace out. I will see you soon, and bye for now.